probably with them just because it'll be easier. But they're not leaving, like, because Sarah's coming. She's got work till like 3:30, so we're not leaving till then. I was hoping to leave earlier in the day, but.
I'll just write you off.
Oh, yeah. I thought about like, well, I could ride with you guys and when you go into town, like just bring my stuff. But that just seems like a lot of messing around. We'll still get there.
We'll take a look for it.
I need a score prediction for this weekend's game. Ryan, is this a matchup game?
There's nothing on Twitter about that downtown. Why would anybody
Daddy's got a brand new telephone. Okay, folks, I'm going to ask us to try to keep it just to one question because we're going to go about 20 minutes today. So I'm going to open up.
Good luck with that, Jerry.
Fourth row right. Fourth row right, fifth row right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman row.
Right, you rewatch the film on this. You talk about offensive line progress every week, but what do you feel like you're finally seeing what you need to see from that group up front?
Step in the right direction. You saw them playing hard, and that's the expectation. You know, they're not always going to be perfect, but we got to rock off the ball and finish people. And you know, I felt like it started with that week of practice that they had last week to build some momentum going into this week. It's got to happen again, starting today on Tuesday. Is a big practice for us. So, you know, we gotta win the game up front in this game. That's, you know, no surprise to anybody, and you know they'll be a big part of it.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, Coach Freeman said yesterday that he wants to be more aggressive in this game offensively than maybe he was a year ago. With the situation you guys have, still an offensive line kind of coming together, Kyle going on the road to a hostile environment for the first time, how do you manage a game like this maybe differently, or do you do anything differently given kind of those scenarios and going to a place like Notre Dame?
Well, I think you build up, you know, in these first few games to figure out where you are going into this game, and you go from there. But I think that, you know, we got some confidence going into this game. We got a rhythm, so you know we got to have a great week of practice. But it's going to come down to, you know, winning the line of scrimmage for sure. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and you know who's going to be there in the end. And you know they have a really good team. You know Marcus does a great job. They have a great staff. You know, so you know we got to go win a top 10 game on the road, and our guys are really excited for this game. You could see it Sunday. You could see it even yesterday, guys. You know, buzzing around, and so now we got to have a great week of practice, and it's going to come down to, you know, who wants to compete more.
Over here to the right, Don Sperry, WBNS.
Coach, as you look at your football team right now going into this week, what do you think you're the most comfortable with offensively that you're doing?
I think we have a good balance. I think that's important when you talk about, you know, the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. You know, you've seen even in 3 games, I think multiple guys, you know, produce, and that's good. You know, when you can attack from different personnel groupings, and you know, it forces defense to have to play the entire field. They can't just, you know, focus in on one guy or one thing that you're doing. So I think we have a good balance, and I think that's going to be important in this game.
Rep Hyman, Clay Hall, WSYX.
How big a tone setter could this be for you to get to this checkpoint 4-0, as you say, to win this game on the road? And maybe the way you kind of manipulated, you said you ratcheted up the intensity. Can you do it again 2 weeks in a row?
Oh yeah. That's what, you know, we don't have a choice. That's what we have to do. This is again top 10 you know game on the road, and this is why, again, these are the kind of games why you come to Ohio State. You know, this is an exciting series because it's not something that happens very often. Ohio State, Notre Dame, you know, 2 of the bigger teams in the Midwest getting together for a home and home. You know, last year's atmosphere was electric. It'll be the same way on Saturday night. So our guys are really fired up for this.
Fourth row right, Cameron Teague, Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, as a play caller, when you're playing a defense that has a corner that's playing with as much confidence as it does right now, how do you go about game planning with a guy like that? You know there's going to be almost anything.
I mean, you always have to know where he is. You have to be aware of that, and you have to, you know, be smart about what you're doing and how you're doing it. I think that's probably the biggest thing is when you're dealing with a great corner, you need to know where he is, and you know, not that you're going to change your game plan, but you need to know, you know, is it right, left, is it field boundary, those type of things, so that, you know, your quarterback has an idea of, you know, the matchups that he's dealing with. And the good news for us is, you know, we have multiple really good players back there. So that's the same thing on offense. You know, when you're getting to games like this, oftentimes it can come down to the matchups, and you want to have enough depth and enough playmakers on both sides of the ball that when it comes to, you know, your star, you know, your next guy, your third guy, your fourth guy, you know, those are all matchups that you have that are in your favor, and you know, that can happen in games like this.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
It's a rare trip up to South Bend. Do you think you'll be able to take a moment, even though it is such a big game, to sort of soak in where you are and enjoy it for a second?
Probably not, but that's the game. Been there a few times when I was at Boston College. You know, there's a lot of respect for the history of the program and what they've done. You know, grew up watching Notre Dame, and wonderful program, great tradition, and they do a great job. But yeah, I mean, these are great moments. This is, you know, the highest level of college football, and all eyes will be on this game, and that's the way we love it.
Fourth row middle, Tony German, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, what were you most pleased with leaving the game, leaving the field last week, offense or defense, knowing what you're dealing with this weekend?
Just the energy and the passion and the intensity that we played the game with. Didn't even remember exactly what the score was, but I remember how some guys played in that game, and just the overall intensity was there, and the challenge was there. So that's got to, you know, lead into this week, and that was what we tried to get done, and so now it's got to mean something here on Tuesday. I mean, we got to take the next step, got to continue to ratchet it up, because this is a bigger challenge.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, I want to ask about James Laurinaitis. Just what impact has he had on the defense overall, and especially this week? How much can he help with him having been there last year?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as you'd like to think, but he's done an unbelievable job since he's been here. He's helped out a ton. Being a graduate assistant, he's an accountable coach. You know, knows what it's like to walk in the shoes of an Ohio State football player, and you know, he's played in the NFL, and he's got great, you know, great experience that he can share with our guys, and our linebackers really enjoy that. So he's been a great addition to the staff.
Second row right, Bill Landis, the podcast, Rivals.
Right. How would you evaluate, I guess, Kyle's decision-making and processing? I was assuming you're giving him more and more each week. How has he kind of handled, I guess, putting more on his plate every week?
Yeah, I think he's growing each week. I think you saw that. And, you know, not that everything's perfect, nothing is, and I think this week will be a big challenge to see where we're at. But it's been a gradual build up for our whole team, and you know, for him to this point. And so now it's time to go play and see what we got. But you know, we got to do a great job. You know, again, I keep saying it. You know, these next couple of days to really prepare. You know, I think I've told you before. I get more worked up for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday than I do for the game. You know, we got to really be on point today, and have a great practice.
Second row middle, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
You brought up the CJ Oregon game a couple of times when we talked to you about the 54 passes, just putting way too much on CJ's plate, and whether it's how you game plan, how you call plays, whether it's production of other position groups, the defense. Are you more confident that that won't be the case on Saturday with having to put too much on Kyle's plate this early on in his career as a starter? And what does that look like in making sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle's, you know, he has to go play the game, and we have to do whatever we can to win the game. You know, that's the bottom line. Whatever that looks like, we're always looking for balance. We want balance. There's certain times where, like last year, you know, we ran the ball a ton down the stretch, you know, and you know, we're good with making 5 or 6 yards a carry. But then there's also times where, you know, you got to throw it more because of what they're doing and how the game's playing out. So we have to be able to pivot either way, whatever it takes to win the game.
Right behind him, Andy Andrews, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, you talked about, you know, after the Georgia game last year, being more expressive, emotional on the sideline in certain big games like this. So on Saturday, how do you plan to strike that balance between showing that emotion, providing that intensity to the team, and also staying poised when you need to and being calm?
Yeah, well, I think it's just the overall, you know, team approach. Even last week, you know, you could see guys were, you know, into the game. The sideline was passionate. You know, guys were. Coach Mick even got a penalty for walking out in the field. But hey, sometimes things got to go down. You know what I mean? That's our mentality as a team. You know, it isn't just, you know, the leaders. It isn't just the coaches. It's everybody. You know, and that's the way we're going to be this week.
Front row right, Tim May. On 3, the Tim May Show.
Well, thank you very much. So hope the refereeing crew from that DeSales Reedy game doesn't show up, right? That's a little joke there. Kind of a two-pronged question, but it dovetails. The feeling you talked about after that game at Georgia, against Georgia, and in Indianapolis, about just feeling, hey, just go out and let it all hang out kind of approach. Do you have that confidence in Kyle that you can take that into this game? And then defensively also, have you seen enough to prove to yourself that this defense hasn't taken the strides you wanted?
Yeah, and I think that this is a group that has played in the big stage. You know, they have. I mean, the majority of these guys have done that, and they've seen it. You know, even though Kyle really hasn't, you know, been on that stage, he's seen it. He's been around it. He knows what it looks like. And a lot of the guys coming back from last year's team they've been there before. So that's good going into it. And then, you know, I think you saw last week what we're capable of. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all there. And now it's just time to go do it.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
When they have this year, Notre Dame, a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, obviously, in Sam Hartman. What stands out to you about this offense that they have this year versus where they were a year ago?
Yeah, very different. Different coach, different quarterback. You can tell, you know, Hartman is a veteran. He's been around. He's played a lot of football, accurate, very intelligent. You know, a lot of good attributes for a quarterback. He's very good. Won a lot of games at Wake Forest, and obviously he's 4-0 now. Efficient. And I think they're doing a really good job with him. They're running the ball. They're running the ball out of multiple personnel groupings and efficient. You know, I think just a different style of quarterback than when they had, you know, Buckner last year. Just you know, that was more of a quarterback run, spread run game. This is a little bit more pro style.
Hartman seems willing to certainly take shots downfield and get 2 on Saturday, where over 70 yards. He's taking deep shots throughout the year. What stands out about the way he can do that, and what's the particular challenge with that?
Well, I think anytime you deal with a pro style run game, you're dealing with, you know, run and play action, and you know, I think they want to establish the run. It's clear, you can tell that. I think Estime's running really well. He's running hard, and then once that happens, it opens up things down the field, and so that kind of goes hand in hand, and they're doing a good job of that. They have a good plan and put it in place, and so, you know, that's a good challenge for our defense. You know, we had a real long conversation about it all today, and you know, we got to be able to rise to the challenge, understand exactly what you're talking about, because we've got to be aggressive, but we also, you have to make sure that, you know, we're running to the ball and giving great effort, and you know, avoiding big plays, all those types of things.
Third row, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, what's the biggest difference you've seen in Tyleek Williams this year that's allowed him to make a more consistent impact?
Well, it's great to see him play 50 plays in this game. I thought there was actually times where he got better as the game went on. He's got power, he's got strength at the point of attack. He's very athletic, and he missed a little bit of time with a little bit of a tweaked injury at the beginning of preseason, and I think now he's finally got his feet back underneath him. I think, you know, he's doing a better job with his hands. He's powerful, he's athletic, and so now, you know, it's time for him to go play his best football in this game, along with the rest of the defensive line. You know, it's a big challenge. They do have a good offensive line that's well documented, so again, our guys have to have a great week of preparation.
Far left, Whitney Harding, WCMH.
Ryan, you talked about just the special matchup as far as these programs in the history. It's also a special matchup because of so many crossover. I mean, Moore-Nitis, they've already asked about him. There's a guy in the back of the room over there, who knows. Devontae's there. Lorenzo's now here. How neat is that there's these programs so much crossover?
Yeah, I think maybe just because of the location of where we are, and just you know, now that, you know, Marcus is there and being a former Buckeye, there's you know guys from Ohio in the program, and vice versa. So you know, we're not in the same conference, but now that we're playing against each other, I guess, you know, you recognize those things. But you know, a lot of respect for that program, what they do. They do things the right way, and a lot of good coaches there, and good players.
Front row, Austin Ward, Rivals, the podcast.
Did Mick have dawn patrol or anything for that penalty?
Nobody did run like we run on Sundays. You have to run for a penalty. He did do his penance for that. Yeah.
When you prepare, break down film, game plan for Notre Dame, how much in your mind, how much stock, percentage attention would you put on the way they played you last year versus the 4 games that you have to look at now?
Yeah, you take everything into consideration. You watch everything, and you try to do the best you can to project out what you're going to see. Some of it is based on the personnel they have this year. Some of it is based on schematics, you know, things that they've seen this year, things that we've adapted on both sides of the ball. So, you know, different on defense because, you know, the defensive staff is pretty much intact. On offense, you know, different coordinator, different quarterback. So, but they're a very veteran defense. You know, they have a bunch of seniors on that team, a lot of guys who have played a lot of football, so they know what they're trying to get done, and you know, they force you to you know, move the ball down the field. You know, to give you a lot of big plays, and they're very well coached.
Second row left, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
You were talking before about just the progression that you were seeing from Kyle and the rest of the offensive practice and how that changed your approach on Saturday a little bit. Does tempo fall into that too? Or are you starting to see things during the week in that regard that allow you to, I guess, be the offense you want to be more on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it plays a big part of the rhythm of the game. There's a give and take to all of this, but when our team is playing with tempo, they find themselves in a rhythm. They find some comfort in that, and so it's a tool that we use. Some games more than others, but you could see on Saturday, how our team got in a rhythm using some tempo. But there was also the big plays, the first play of the drives that were explosives that weren't tempo, that I thought were well executed. But that'll all play into consideration. But it's got to come down to execution.
It wasn't necessarily a reaction on your part to what you talked about before, trying to create more plays. It was just.
Well, I think in last week's game, we knew they were going to throw it a lot and go tempo, so it was less of a concern. Where the last 2 weeks, it was like, how fast can we run plays, because the game was going to be over in less than 3 hours. Last week's game was going to be completely different, so we knew that. This is a matchup game, totally different. You just do everything you can to win the game.
Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
I know you guys didn't look at it this way because you can't, but a lot of people thought the first 3 games were basically too enough for this one. You entered the game with a lot of questions on your team. Compared to how you felt heading into the Indiana game, how good do you feel about where you are ready for this challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we went through those 3 games to get to this point, with, some of the new faces that we had, and we did work out some of the issues, and so I'm excited to get on the field and go play this one now. I think that we have a pretty good idea who our team is and where we're at, and so now it's time to go play. But yeah, to answer your question, we are in a much different place than we were week 1.
And last year you did have an experienced quarterback, an experienced offensive line. You still only scored 21 points against Notre Dame. What was it that they did or you didn't do, and how much has that shaped your preparation for this game?
I think in matchup games, like, it really doesn't matter the score as long as you win. I think I get it when you're playing, Western Kentucky, it's a little bit of an eye test there and all that. But in that game, I thought we controlled the ball, we ran the ball, and, the time of possession was really important there. And we won the game. I think that's in that game, that was the right thing to do. Now you just never know what's going to come in this game, how it's going to shake out, what the back and forth is going to be. And, the ultimate goal is to win the game. That's it, and that's what we'll do in this one. But yeah, I think, looking back on that game, there was some things we did well, some things that we could have really done much better. But it was the first game of the year, and weren't clean on some things, but there were some things that we did do well.
Right behind him, Doug Lesmerises, Kings of Columbus, and the broadcast.
Ryan, last year Tyler Buckner's making his first start. CJ's back as a year 2 starter. Now Sam Hartman's been around forever. This is still pretty new for Kyle. In general, how much do you think quarterback experience matters in like equal talent games on a big time stage like this? Is it a factor?
Yeah, I think it's a factor. Yeah, how much you want. I think Kyle's been around. He hasn't played a whole bunch of football, but he has been around. He's seen it, so he's older and more mature than maybe a freshman who's coming in the same situation. But no, I think experience does play a part of it. It's not the number one thing overall. There's a lot of other things that come with it, but I do think it's significant.
And you have to play the games whenever you play them. Last year it's week 1.
Right.
Now you've played 3, they've played 4. It feels like you just feel like more about your team,
right.
Maybe more about the opponent when a big time game like this is a little bit later in the schedule.
Yeah.
Is that true?
They've played 4, we've played 3, so it is a different approach than it would be for game 1. Yeah.
Fourth row, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Right, I know you said this game's decided at the line of scrimmage, but that Notre Dame back end is playing among the best in the country right now. What stands out about that group to you?
Again, some guys who played a bunch of football. I think both corners are playing well. The safeties are playing well. I think the linebackers are excellent. They've seen a lot of football, played a lot of football. They're good players. There's some NFL players on that defense. They're well coached. Again, they don't give you a lot of freebies, not a lot of missed assignments. They tackle well. They're physical. So it's exactly what we expected. So we got to go play well.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
I know you named Kyle the starter to kind of gained confidence on the field, but off the field, I know it's just been a week. Have you seen the locker room? Have you seen Kyle change and kind of grow now that he is the guy?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think you've seen a little bit of a different approach. He had his best week of practice last week. Whether that was a coincidence or not, I'm not sure. But we'll see going into this week. But I do. I thought he graded out really well, on Saturday, and hopefully he can play his best football here this week. But I think that there was a little pep in his step for sure.
Right next door, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Building off of Andy's question, with Benjamin Morrison for Notre Dame, what stands out to you when you watch him? And are you guys game planning as if he's going to follow Marv around on either side of the field?
I mean, no. We're gonna just do what we do, but at the same time, he's a very good corner, good cover skills, competitive, good change of direction, runs well. He's very talented.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Treviot's looked really sharp this season. I don't think that's a secret. Is he starting to maybe kind of elevate himself to be that guy you can't take off the field? And I guess what is the benefit of having that guy going into a game like this that you can ride?
Yeah, well, when we need him to play great, his approach has been excellent. His competitiveness every day has been great. I think he's running hard. He's a weapon in a lot of areas, and yeah, that can be a difference maker for us. I thought he ran hard last year's game. He and Mayan both. So again, it's like anybody else. I mean, they got to play their best football, but you're seeing, a guy run downhill and make big plays, and he's certainly a threat once he gets in the open field.
Is Mayan the third guy? I mean, is Chip taking that second spot really? I know you're trying
No, we haven't really put any kind of depth on that part of it. We'll still kind of roll the guys, but all are going to play.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to wrap it up with a couple of quickies from Tim May on three.
Yeah. Do you like that combination you saw? You're seeing now though with Travion and Trainum. I mean, in Trainum, has he surprised you a little bit the way he's stepped up? I mean, came back to be a linebacker. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know he hasn't surprised me because of his work ethic in the off season. He's got real speed. He's got power. He's got 1-2. He's got a really good leader, great attitude, tough. And so this was kind of what I thought we would see.
With Hartman, in a nutshell, you can see he's in his 6th year, right? I mean, how does it show up?
Just poise, decision making, overall command of the game, and then execution.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys. Yep.
Somebody said, here, it's big week. You got to bring big time players. What'd you say? Appreciate everybody being really quick with their questions and sticking with the protocol.
If not for Tim's
Coach Day
extras,
appreciates
right
it
on
too. What's that?
If not for Tim's extras, you would have been right on 20.
He was shaking up here asking this one question. I said, is that all it takes? We can't go 2 weeks in here with Tim only getting one question today.
game where you force a lot of turnovers. Notre Dame, not a team that really makes those mistakes. They don't really get behind schedule. How do you try to match up against a team like that and a quarterback that 70% completion, no interceptions so far this season?
You know, you just fight and do everything you can to continue to get better. I mean, that's really what we're all about, is getting better every day. So, you know, you emphasize the positives that happened in the last game. You show the challenges of this game, and you come up with a plan to win. You know, and that's it's really a week-to-week process, and in matchup games, it's just further intensified.
What is it about his decision-making that makes him so able to read the defense as well and have such a high completion percentage without making mistakes?
He's smart. He's efficient. He's experienced, right? I mean, when you have a lot of experience as a quarterback, it helps you figure things out, get rid of the ball. He has great vision.
Front row, middle. Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Jim. I want to ask about James Laurinaitis and what he's added to the linebacker room, and just your thoughts on working with him and what he's been able to add to your defense this year.
James is just a wonderful person, number one, to have around. Two, you know, a legend at Ohio State, so he can relate to, you know, what the current players go through on a daily basis. He's not that old, so he's you know, still close enough to their age where he can you know, be a real mentor to the guys. Then you take the experience of playing in the NFL, right? So when it gets to certain individualized techniques, he brings a lot to the table.
We're going to go deep center field. Jeremy Burton on 3, the podcast.
Jim,
I take that back. Rivals, the podcast.
Jim, when you know, last week you come out, Sonny's basically playing in the slot on a wide receiver in the first play of the game and doesn't play a lot the rest of the game because Jordan's in there, and then Sonny's in there when it's 63-10 at the end. How do you balance that? I mean, is it just totally based on matchups, or are you just trying to get a feel for how someone's reacting, moving early in the game? Or how do you figure out which rotation? Because Sonny's athletic enough to be out there.
Yeah, it's all part of the plan. You know, it's a week-to-week plan, which, you know, where we want to utilize the talents of our players, but like you said, also get the matchups right and do what they do best. So it just worked out that way in that game, and we knew it was going to be a lot of you know, true nickel because of the passing attack.
What did you think about Jordan's, you know, his response to getting to those reps?
You know, I thought he made some plays, and I think, you know, he's still a work in progress at that position, and he just needs repetition and continued coaching, but he has the skills.
Fourth row right, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Jim, the Notre Dame running back, Andre Benson, does a lot for them. He's kind of a bell cow at this point. What kind of challenge does he present to the defense, and especially those linebackers?
You know, it's the running back combined with the offensive line. The offensive line is talented. You know, the tackles are excellent, and he's a strong running back. So when you have an offensive line that works well together, and you know, they're physical and they push at the point of attack, he's a guy who can get behind that, and strong runner, but also elusive. He can also make the cuts. So I think it's a real challenge for us to, you know, play behind our pads and play downhill, because you're going to have to put your face in the fan.
Right next door, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Jim, we talked a lot about going to that Western game, about this being the big test, the first true test for the secondary. Just when you watch that game back, what you learned about this group that did good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, I learned that we could compete at a high level against, you know, a guy who I think is going to be an NFL quarterback and a receiver who I think is an NFL receiver. I think they had those two players were premier talents. So, you know, it gets harder and harder every week, but that's why they're at the Ohio State and me too. So but you take from it that, okay, we're, in the passing game, we're going to contest them, we're going to compete. And I think that's what we want to do this year.
Right behind him, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman row.
Jim, you guys have rotated a lot of defensive linemen so far this season. Is this the kind of matchup where you want to see that pared down a little bit and keep your best guys on the field at all times, or is it one where you have to keep them fresh?
No, I think we go with our plan. We want to keep those guys fresh, play as many as we can. We want to be strong in the fourth quarter, so we'll continue that way.
Second row right, Doug Maurice, Kings of Columbus, the podcast.
You talked about Notre Dame's offensive line. When an opponent has an offensive line like that, do you need to think about how do you then decide how much you're going to blitz to get the pressure you want? If you feel like maybe, I don't know, would you feel if we don't blitz, maybe we won't get as much pressure, even though you guys have a good D-line?
Well, such is the dilemma, right? I mean, week to week, really is, and you take it play by play and situation by situation, and you want to always have something to change up, keep them off balance. It's just, I guess that's why I work all those hours. If there was an easy answer to that question, I'd be smoking a cigar right now.
And it does, they'll protect, right? Run the ball, protect, and then maybe take a deep shot. Your ability of your secondary right now, even if Hartman's back there all day, what's your confidence level in your secondary to still be able to defend down the field, even if they have a chance to take that shot?
Yeah, I'm confident, but we won't stop practicing. I think we'll keep practicing. But I'm confident we're staying on top of things, right? We're staying on top of things, keeping it in front, and limiting the explosive plays, and that's a big deal.
Right next door, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just to follow up on Sonny a little bit. I think late in that game on Saturday, Jordan was the nickel and Sonny was high. And I know you're not trying to throw too much at him at one time, but how comfortable is he at other spots other than nickel? And is it something that you could potentially explore in a game sometime down the line here?
Yes, he's comfortable at both. Talented young man who also has great football intelligence. So, yeah, we're gonna keep working with him in different ways without overloading him. It is a balance because I want him to play fast.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, what's the biggest difference you've seen from Tyleik Williams that has allowed him to make a more consistent impact so far this season?
Just being healthy. Tyleik is extremely athletic, really athletic. And, he needs the repetitions, missed a lot of reps during camp, right? So the more repetitions that he gets, it just seems like the better he becomes. But staying healthy is a big thing.
Right in front of him, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
These first three games, there have been a lot of legitimate reasons maybe why the defensive line doesn't get to the quarterback a lot. This game, where they do have a more pro-style offense, do you feel like you have to feel the defensive line, just the four-man rush in the pass rush more in order to win a game like this?
They have to keep doing what they're doing. Last game was interesting. I don't know how many sacks we got, only a couple, I think. But when you watch the tape, he was under duress all the time, and I think that's sometimes missed, So we just got to keep doing what we're doing up front. Talented, hard-working guys. It is. We want the sacks and the quarterback hits, but it's also about getting the ball out on time, making sure the ball gets out on time, and we've been doing that.
Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
I asked Ryan a similar question. I know you guys were confident going into the season about your defense, but obviously the last thing people saw were the last two games, through 3 games, how good do you feel about it, and what needs to improve?
I never feel good. I mean, there's not a time that I feel good, and that's not something that I should. It's a constant striving to get better. Now you emphasize the positives. You see things, you build on that, and that builds confidence. So I think we just need to keep getting better at that confident approach. The more reps you get, the more plays you make, those all count. They're like in the bank, what I mean? So to me, it's just all about a continued mindset of confidence and controlling the game on defense. I mean, it's really just continue to push the mindset.
Just specifically about JT and Jack, because the sacks haven't been there, but I see what you're saying about the pressure and the disruption and the run game too. How would you assess the way they're playing?
I think they're playing excellent, and they're talented, coachable, Ohio State type young men, and you really couldn't ask for more out of either of them. They're going to do whatever you ask them to do. They're going to be coachable. They're going to see their mistakes. They're going to fix them. They're just really great young men. I'm very pleased with both of them.
Far right, Austin Ward, Rivals, the podcast.
Jim, if the opportunity had been there, what did you think that Chip could have become at linebacker?
I love Chip just as a person too, close to him, just as a person, just a great kid. He's very athletic and he's physical. So, I was looking forward to the chance to work with him because, I definitely thought he could be like a Malcolm Rodriguez type, who's now with the Lions that we had at Oklahoma State. So, there was a lot of potential there, but Chip's also a team guy. He's going to do whatever coaches ask him, and just a great kid.
Right next door, Tim May show on 3.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. Dovetailing off of that, you've been around Steel Chambers. You've been around Chip. Steel Chambers showed up as a running back, and he's at linebacker. Chip came back here as a linebacker, and he's at running back. And just what makes those guys tick? And do what's special about? I guess obviously you talked about Chip a little bit, but Steel too. I mean, are they in the right place now? I guess you're a football coach, not just defense.
But they only pay me to coach defense, so anything else is above my pay grade. So it's that combination of athleticism and physicality and football intelligence. I think that they both have, right? I mean, that's what makes Steele good at the position is that it's that football intelligence. Can you see the big picture? That you're not just locked into one thing. And both of them are like that. And great team guys too. So really versatile.
As you prep for this game, how much are you what you've seen on video are you able to apply compared to what you saw last year from these guys? From an offensive standpoint, can you put in layman's terms how much they've changed from they almost look to me like a Joe Gibbs offense from the Redskins. I mean, like want to run that power in and throw over the top. But what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, you really just I think when you're in these situations, you focus on what you have to see in front of you with 4 games, and you check on some things from this year, but they certainly look different, and you have to look at the personnel and particularly the quarterback, new offensive line coach, right? So you have some different schemes coming up.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
What do you see as the biggest effect that Sam Hartman and the new quarterbacks had on their offense this year?
Decision making, I think is huge, and leadership from a quarterback. Obviously, he's an impressive guy to be able to come in there and be a captain as a transfer. So I think it's that decision making and leadership that he brings to the table that makes him different.
He's connected on some deep balls this year. I think the last thing they had 2 over 70, and just in general, it seems to be something they've done more this year with with the vertical stuff. How apparent is that on film and what
Yeah, I mean, it goes along kind of what Tim said about the offense, you know. It's become a running, you know, smash mouth offense with shots over the top, you know, so I think it really fits what they're doing, and it's definitely something we have to be prepared for.
Fourth row middle, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
I guess right along with that, you had mentioned, I think, last week about finding out more about your pass rush. How much do you know about your secondary's ability to handle the play action right now?
You know, what I've seen so far is good, you know, is good. There's an understanding of how to be on top, you know, of how to play those, you know, giant crossing routes. You've seen some of that show up, you know, and a lot of plays that you're seeing in the NFL. So there's an understanding there. There's been execution. You know, you got to keep pressing it because it gets more every week against better opponents. It just gets tougher to do.
How much different is this challenge in that regard than the first three?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything, right? I mean, it's a matchup game, you know, so the intensity level increases, you know, but it still always comes back to habits. You know, what kind of habits do you have and your training? But yeah, I mean, it's different every week, and this is certainly a huge test.
And we'll wrap up questions for Coach Knowles. Second row right, Bill Landis. Rivals, the podcast.
Jim, since you've been here, you've seemed really excited about being able to use Mitchell if he were ever available to you. I think to this point he's mostly been like late game stuff. How do you feel about his reps building up, and I guess when will you be comfortable to use him in sort of the way you use him?
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable now. You know, it's just got to be part of the game plan. You know, and it's in, and you never know when you're going to see it.
Coach, thank you very much for your time.